How's it going, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. My name is Ramon, and this is Dad's Podcast Project. And today I wanted to provide a little bit of a preschool update with regards to my son, who has been enrolled and currently going to preschool for the past couple of weeks. What has the experience been like, as well as a couple questions that I'd gotten from a few other parents/friends of mine who wanted just a little bit more information on the subject. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So a friend of mine was recently asking what my son's experience has been like going to preschool. He's only had a very short experience with daycare. We didn't keep him in daycare very long. We were fortunate enough to have his grandmother be able to stay and watch him during the day while my wife and I were at work. So because of that, the added expenses of daycare versus having grandma or family raising your children, it is a luxury. I know how difficult it can be for other parents to have to do that if they don't have abuelita or grandpa to step in. So for that, we've been very fortunate. But on that same token, he's not had as much experience around other children as, say, a child who's gone to daycare. They're used to other kids. They've sort of gone through that process. So of how to act and how to play and how to socialize as a very, very young toddler. So because my son didn't have that, we ourselves were pretty curious what his experience was going to be like going to preschool. Fortunately, it's been good. It hasn't been bad. His teacher, when my wife goes to pick him up, has expressed how good a child our son is, how wonderful he plays with the other kids, things of that nature. So it's been really positive feedback from the faculty. Now, he has recently been expressing sort of sadness when it comes to being dropped off. In the beginning, the first couple of days, he was totally fine. He just, took off, wanted to start playing with the other kids. However, now he's looking back to my wife, his mother, and saying, "Don't go, don't leave me," which can be really gut-wrenching for a parent to hear. I mean, let's just be honest with that. So that has also sort of crept in, but my wife kind of switches it up on him and presents him with like, "Oh, go show me your toys," or "Show me where your class is." Kind of distracting questions that gets his mind off of the fact that she'll be leaving and gets him to thinking, "Oh, well, here's my cubby," or "Here are the toys that we play with." And sooner than later, he ends up getting distracted by another child who wants to come up and play. And then that's when my wife takes her cue and slowly exits. So that's been the experience so far within the past couple weeks. He goes 3 times a week, so he's not like a Monday through Friday. And we definitely don't have him going full time, because that was another discussion that I was having with a parent when he was asking, or we were talking about both of our kids who are very close in age. His son goes to daycare, and he was curious what the preschool scene was like. I told him, for one, it's expensive. I mean, that sucks. I think any extra bills right now with these 2 kids at the age that they are is tough. But it's what we do as parents to try to provide the best future that we can, I guess, within reason, provide. So though it means maybe less burgers for myself, that's an easy deal to make. I'll not eat fast food so that my son can get his education. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's very different from daycare in the sense that the preschool he's currently going to, they do teach things like letters. They teach things like reading and group activities. I guess I'm not really sure how different that is from daycare, because that may change from daycare to daycare. When we were looking into a preschool, we're under the impression that it's preparing him for school. This is a preschool transition. So it's not just a place he goes just to hang out, play all day, take scheduled naps, and possibly not learn anything. I don't know. Again, it may vary from daycare to daycare. They might have a story time, but I don't know if they're necessarily teaching them how to read or encouraging them to learn their letters or possibly how to write. So that was one of the things that I brought up as a possible difference. The other is that my son is enrolled in I think it's a Christian preschool, which also kind of got a question from the same father. He was like, "Oh, well, were you guys looking for a Christian preschool?" And short answer is no. I wasn't, or my wife and I, we weren't. We were primarily focused on just finding a good school because there's a lot of criteria living in a small town that we had to meet, not necessarily that the schools had to meet. So, I mean, they had to meet certain criteria, but I'll list off the criteria that we had to meet. And first, it's that our son was potty trained and that he could dress himself. So these were things that we were tasked with as parents early on. I think we tried about a year ago to get on that potty train wagon, and it was difficult. It wasn't very easy. And during that time, on the school side of things, there had to be an open slot. So we're trying to hit this potty training mark and teaching our son how to dress himself. And on the other side of things, we also have to meet the availability of the preschool having a slot open. Not all of these schools have just available slots. A lot of them are full. Now, the other thing with regards to a school that we wanted it to meet was, and I don't want to knock any schools. I don't want to, if your child goes to a school like this, that is completely on you. That's totally fine. You make the decisions. I'm not here to judge. But for us, we wanted a school with maybe slightly heightened level of security. So what I mean by that, and I'll give an example, is I went to visit a preschool that was just firing on all cylinders. We really liked it. We really liked the staff. We really liked the layout, the location. Everything was great, except for one thing. I was able to just walk right in. So when I got there, I parked in the front and I just walked in an open door to an empty class. All the kids were out in the back playing, and I was kind of just standing there like, hello, is anybody here? And it just felt awkward for me. I had business being there, but it made me feel like who's at the door? Who's watching this place? And maybe it's just something that a seed that was planted in my head when my wife and I were living in Southern California, but it felt like every place we went to in regards to looking for a daycare back when my son was within his short daycare stay, it felt like every place was under lock and key. And there was like a long list to ensure the chain of custody between you and your child and the people at the daycare. In a small town, I think that's great. I think that's great to have that sense of comfort where we don't lock our doors, we don't have alarms, we don't have key fobs to get into these classes. I think that offers peace of mind that, you're living in a safe neighborhood. But it didn't provide me any comfort, only because of what I see on the news, what I hear on social media, all of these things that are happening in this world, and all of these just horrific events that are touching the lives of children just across the nation. And I think to myself, I don't want to take any chances. And though other people might feel comfortable with that and might feel like putting a lock on the door makes their neighborhood feel unsafe, but for me, I would rather have a fire alarm in my house than not have one and wake up to a burning building. I would just like that peace of mind. So we did find a preschool that's like that. There's a key fob to get in the door. The I believe they took our pictures so that as the parents, we are the only two people with, I think my aunt is also allowed, but we're the only people allowed to pick up our son. No one else. Can't just go up, I'm auntie. Can't have the kid saying, oh yeah, that's my aunt or that's my dad's friend. It's not like that. I mean, those days unfortunately are not the same as it's not the same as it used to be. So there is a sense of custody when it comes to dropping your children off and picking them up. You also have to sign them in and sign them out. So if they don't see on that form that you've picked up your child and you've signed them out, that's also another red flag or can trigger something that they can then call or do something about that. But they have a key fob system. So you just swipe that key fob across the door and then you're able to go and you just pick up your child. We are also in a small town, so we do see the faculty when we go in. It's just, I guess having that security door just feels nice. It makes me feel a little bit more at ease that we're leaving our son there. And however it makes other parents feel, that's none of my concern. It's how it makes me feel as my son's parent. So that was one of the things that we were looking for, and we were fortunate enough to find it. It is in a Christian school. Now, I don't have any gripes against Christianity or religion. Though I don't necessarily, I can't say with 100% conviction that I believe in God, but I also can't admit that I don't. So I picture myself as being somewhere in the middle. So the fact that my son is going to a school like this and he's learning about these things, I believe they take a certain snippet of time out of each day to read or learn about stories in the Bible. That doesn't bother me. I think that's great that he's learning these things. I didn't learn them as a kid growing up, so maybe that's why it's a little bit harder for me to have just that faith. I went through my life without it. So it's harder for me. But the fact that my son is learning it at a young age, I don't see it as a bad thing. So if he has questions, I think that my wife will definitely be the one to be able to answer those. I don't want to say that I won't. I just think that I'm not the most prepared. So if it causes me to do research on my own end of things to be able to find these answers for him, I think that might be the catalyst that then gets me more involved, because whether it's math, science, social studies, or religion, whatever subject my kids are learning, I feel that they should be able to come to me if they have a question. And if I don't have the answer, it's my responsibility to find it for them and give them the best answer, given the pros and cons that you're always going to find out there on the internet. Because I think that's just my job. It's just my job as their parent. So that was the other thing that we had discussed, is what kind of school it was. And like I said, it's a Christian school, or a Christian-based preschool that takes time out of the day. I'm not sure if they pray, but oh no, they do, actually. They hold hands before they eat their snack or before their snack time. And I think they bow their heads and they say a little prayer. So that's one of the things that my son brought home. My family, we do that on the holidays and family gatherings. I'm no stranger to that. However, I didn't do that growing up in the house. Like we didn't sit down for dinner and hold hands and say a little prayer for our meal. So the fact that my son is the one introducing that to us, and I'm no stranger to it, I'm not shied away from it, I think that's also another good thing, that he's learning it in school and he's bringing it into the home. The fact that maybe it's not his responsibility, maybe it should be mine, I mean, who am I to say? You all can have your own opinions on that one, but I like it. I like that he's bringing that into the house. The other thing that we had to really think about was the price. I mean, I don't want to feel like I put a price on education, especially when it comes to our children. So we did look at all the schools, and the prices, they vary. Now, some have programs that can help you if you meet a certain, maybe whatever your net pay is throughout the year, you're able to get some deductions or some kind of help. And we looked into those too. At the end of the day, we picked a school that was closest. We picked a school that fortunately was close enough to comfortable for us to pay. We still have to sacrifice things. I mean, we don't have all the channels on television anymore. Knock down some of that internet speed, looking into moving phone plans around. But again, that's for the betterment of our son. That's for his education. And I don't really want to put a price on those kind of things. I want to do the best that I can without sacrificing too much in order to ensure that both of our kids have a good education. So that's been kind of the update with his preschool. It's only been a couple weeks. We'll see how things go. We've been getting a lot of arts and crafts from our son. My wife got a card for Mother's Day and a bracelet. He's brought home 2 plants, which my wife and I, neither of us have a green thumb. So if these plants don't make it, I'm sorry. It's just we don't do too well when it comes to remembering to water plants. And yeah, it's been really nice. I think that my wife definitely enjoys the fact that he's getting out there and socializing more with other kids his age, as well as the time, not to make it sound mean, but the time away from the two of them so that she can spend time with our littlest one, with our daughter, because she's at a real transitional phase herself, going from crawling to now challenging herself to get up. She's starting to show signs of pushing up against the crib, pushing up against a pack and play or a couch. She's wanting to start standing. And when you have an older sibling that wants your attention, they want to play with you, they want to do things, or they're just running around the house, it's nice to have a little bit of quiet time for just a one-on-one, especially when the youngest, again, is at a transitional phase herself, trying to stand, sooner or eventually going to just start walking. And then it also gives my wife a little break herself. So, I mean, let's be real. Once you're a parent, these breaks are few and far in between, if not non-existent. So when school comes around, though it is very emotional to see your kids off each morning, and it's more than exciting to pick them up, it's also good to have a little downtime. So that's where we're at. That's where I'm going to leave it. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to these podcasts. And as always, till next time, see ya.